China continues to provoke India ahead of the BRICS National Security Advisors meet. China targeted India's National Security Advisor, a daily in Beijing called Ajit Doval, the mastermind, the main schemer of the Doklam Standoff. India fortunately has continued to ignore China's warmongering. Is India's cool response making the dragon even more desperate? One shrill provocation after the other. Beijing has continued, whether it's their army, their media, or even their foreign office. But very composed response from India. But is this riling China even more? And can this standoff escalate? And if it does, what does that mean? We have the finest voices on the subject, whether diplomacy or conflict. Joining us on the broadcast, I'm Gaurav Sawant. As always, let's begin on India first. China's repeated provocations are top focus story. 2 days ahead of National Security Advisor Ajit Doval's Beijing visit, the Chinese government's mouthpiece has hit out at the National Security Advisor. An editorial in the Global Times accused Ajit Doval of being the main schemer behind the current Doklam Standoff. It also cautioned that Ajit Doval will be highly disappointed if he attempts to bargain with Beijing over the border dispute. What China chooses to remain silent about is the fact that one, India has not sought any bilateral meeting with China on this subject, and two, India's response has been rather cool and calm in the face of very shrill statements coming from China. Yet another shrill warning by China over the Doklam border standoff. This time, a direct attack on India's National Security Advisor, Ajit Doval. 2 days ahead of Doval's Beijing visit, the Chinese government mouthpiece has hit out at the NSA. An editorial in the Global Times has accused Ajit Doval of being the main schemer behind the Doklam standoff. After the shrill Chinese media rhetoric, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi echoed the Chinese army, saying India must withdraw from Doklam Plateau first for talks.
Do not underestimate our ability to defend our territory. We strongly call on India to immediately withdraw their frontier defense personnel from across the border. This is our precondition and basis for solving the current situation.
The Indian Army has quietly but firmly called China's bluff. Vice Chief of the Army Staff, Lieutenant General Sharad Chand, said it's the Chinese who were in violation of norms in the current standoff. China's frustration stems from the fact that India is not withdrawing from the plateau despite Chinese saber-rattling. In fact, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj set the record straight, saying China was the aggressor and the withdrawal must be mutual. China has threatened not just a tiny Bhutan, but also India. Elsewhere, China, despite its claims of a peaceful rise, has been threatening Vietnam to stop oil exploration in the disputed South China Sea. With Anant Krishnan in Beijing, Bureau Report, India Today. Two of the finest voices on the subject join me on the broadcast. Ambassador G. Parthasarathi, apart from being a former High Commissioner to Pakistan, you were in the Prime Minister's office in 1987 when the Sundarong-Chu standoff happened. So he can tell us about how India should deal with an aggressive China. Also joining us is Lieutenant General B.S. Jaswal, former Army Commander, Northern Command, somebody who served extensively both in the Northeast and in Jammu and Kashmir, and Professor B.R. Deepak. He's a professor at the Center for Chinese and Southeast Asian Studies. He joins us on the broadcast. But Ambassador Parthasarathi, what do you make of China first calling the media, first calling Sushma Swaraj a liar, and now calling Ajit Doval the chief schemer?
Look, the Chinese are suffering from hubris. It's not just Vietnam, it's not just India. A couple of days ago, Chinese fighter planes flew between two Japanese islands.
Yes.
And when the Japanese objected, they said, get used to it. So if you notice the American statement also, they say they should be settled without coercion.
But we see coercion everywhere.
No, yeah. So that is a hit at China, because it is China which is being coercive, whether it's Philippines, whether it is Japan, whether it is India, and also Indonesia and Vietnam.
Yes.
So they are in that mood. Presently, I think if you view it politically, Global Times reflects the jingoistic Chinese psyche. They have gone berserk as far as India is concerned. If you see what they are saying, that a showdown between the elephant and the dragon is inevitable. They're talking of inflicting damage on us. They are also, but at the same time, the People's Daily, which is the party's newspaper, has been cautious, said there is no place for conflict, we should seek peaceful resolution to these things, while of course pointing out that they are in the right. So therefore, they are preparing for the party congress in November. And there must be the internal churning going on now, as Xi Jinping becomes more and more powerful. But coming more to our point and what you said about 87, look, they came in 87.
I'll come to 87 in just a moment, sir.
So
but
I think what is the correct way of playing them? Be cool, make them look silly before the world, which they are doing at the moment.
Okay.
But let them know that we are prepared for contingencies.
Okay. And that is where, General, if I may request you to come in, play cool, but be prepared. Now, in this situation, as there's internal churning on within China, Xi Jinping joking for a bigger role, their party congress happening, their military commission meet happening, where can the balloon go up? Can a spark neglected lead to something, or you don't foresee that at all?
No, I don't foresee that kind of a situation coming up. As a matter of fact, what Mr. Parthasarathi said is absolutely right. You see, his stratagem is was in timelines, creeping assertiveness up to 2012, and then coercive strategy, which was to extend up to 2025, both of them merging in. Now, China is becoming more and more coercive. Now, they have a system of internal intensity and external calm. In this case, though, Wang Yi has not spoken very much. There have not been many statements coming from the government per se.
Okay.
Global Times, very irresponsible, but China has got a habit to create what Sun Tzu had taught, a psychological impact.
Yes.
Create optical illusions. And if the enemy does not withdraw, then decide whether you must take action, that the enemy is strong or not. China does realize that India is rising and is a competing nation, and what statement was made by a defense minister was very, very right. We are not the army of 62.
Okay.
China cannot afford to wage war on us, but yes, it can posture, it can do some nibbling action, which I don't think so, but it may occupy as a face saver any of the disputed areas, which are there, a number of them, I can name them out, because Xi Jinping for the 19th Congress,
yes,
he must make sure that the public gets convinced that what he spoke in 2012 about China's dream, that comes true.
But the China's dream of peaceful rise will be negated. Just 2 days ago, General and Professor B.R. Deepak, if I may bring you in, 2 days ago, the Chinese Navy was threatening war with Vietnam if they continued drilling for oil in the disputed South China Sea. Today, they're threatening India with war in case India does not pull out of Doklam. So there is one, there is no peaceful rise to power. Two, do you also see this as psychological warfare by China, or is this more sinister and we are not reading the dragon right?
Yeah, I think a couple of points there. I agree totally with what my co-panelists have said right now. But I think a couple of two more points. One is China threatening its neighbor, and being very, very assertive. This is not a new thing, and we have to get used to it. And I think the neighborhood also has been used to it. And secondly, as far as psychological warfare is concerned, yes, it is an absolutely psychological warfare, and we need to not read too much in between the lines what Global Times says, because it is not the mainstream newspaper, even though it is the sister newspaper of the People's Daily. But yes, I think there is a concern when, for example, the PLA Daily, when People's Daily, so they publish article, for example, yesterday, their spokesperson, Wu Chen, saying that it is easy to shake a mountain, but it's difficult to shake the PLA's resolve. And of course, that is.
But all this you're saying is all a part of psychological warfare. It's psychological warfare. Stay with me for a moment. Let's now get you the ground reality. How are people on ground, and especially in border areas, taking this situation? Now, India Today correspondents Padmaja Joshi, Manjeet Singh Negi and Shweta Singh, they're at 3 different India-China borders in Ladakh, in the middle sector in Uttarakhand, also in Sikkim. Of course, we also have our teams in Arunachal Pradesh. Let's first bring you Padmaja Joshi's report from Ladakh.
I'm telling you again, this is not the way. Please, don't use force.
Amid the fierce India-China border standoff, India Today tracks the dragon in Leh.
This cold desert is an extremely challenging terrain. इसी गांव का एक उदाहरण ले लीजिए.
Reporting exclusively from Ground Zero at India-China border. Deputy Editor Padmaja Joshi takes us through the reality of people's lives along the border. The standoff has drastically changed people's lives in Leh. No power, no water supply, and now no jobs. The situation only worsening after the border tension, forcing hundreds to move to safer areas. But their hopes have not completely faded. After China blocked Kailash Mansarovar Yatra route, people in Leh have found a substitute for devotees.
चाइना के कारण इतनी टेंशन होने मानसरोवर इतनी दूर जा भी नहीं सक रहे हैं, तो यहाँ पे क्या है कि एक सिंपल सा रूट है अलोंग द इंडस कि हम इसके साथ साथ जाके यहाँ पे उसको कर सकते हैं. जो भी हिंदू यहाँ पे जाना चाहता है वो छोटा कैलाश को जाके यहाँ पे दर्शन कर सकते हैं.
डर कुछ नहीं है सर, क्योंकि यहाँ हमारा यहाँ फौजी लोग बैठा है ना, उसके लिए हम लोग को कोई डर नहीं है सर.
Locals still rely on the army with an imbibed sense of security in their minds and hearts.
When you're fighting a battle of nerves with an aggressor like China, the biggest priority of the government is to have the local population on its side. Becomes all the more challenging because this cold desert is an extremely challenging terrain, to say the least. Speak to locals and they say there's hardly any employment opportunity here, hardly any opportunity to get income, and power and connectivity remain humongous challenges even now. With camera person Zahir in Loma, Padmaja Joshi for India Today.
No fear in Ladakh. Let's now take you to Sikkim, where people told India Today's Shweta Singh that they not only love India and the Indian Army, but they want India to stand up to China and defend Bhutan's national interest.
India's smallest state by population, second smallest by area, and the youngest to become a part of the republic, in 1975. Yet, love for the nation is instilled in every resident of Sikkim.
चाइना का तो कोई विश्वास है ही नहीं, वो कुछ भी कर सकता है, इसलिए हम लोग तो भाग के आए हैं।
पहले विश्वास तो ये है कि भारत हमारे साथ है, भारत हमारे साथ है, इसलिए तो हम लोग अभी तक इधर है। जैसे भारत हमारा गुरुजी हो गया।
Sikkim has a ringside view of the current standoff between India and China after the Red Army attempted to grab Bhutan's land illegally.
We are standing at the last point beyond which civilian access has been restricted on the Indo-Bhutan border. Sikkim shares its boundaries with a lot of countries, and that's why there is a deployment of different paramilitary forces on different borders. But as far as the India-Bhutan border is now concerned and the Doklam area is concerned, the Indian Army is completely in charge. There were a lot of tourists earlier flocking to those areas, and this road used to be very much in use. But now you do not see any traffic here. Only people with special permission from specific authorities can actually take this road and reach the Bhutan border. The Indian Army is in alert mode, but they do not want any misinformation to actually reach the citizens.
Many residents of Sikkim are refugees from Tibet who fled their country after it was invaded by China in 1949. They insist India must continue to stand with and defend Bhutan's national interest.
Rotating the prayer wheel for peace, because what China wants is a slice of a land of another nation. There are a lot of people who are questioning whether India should stand for a third country, Bhutan, but that is what is India's policy, to protect those who can't protect themselves. China's perhaps is just to grab land. With camera person Yogendra Singh, this is Shweta Singh in Sikkim for India Today.
Ambassador, you were in the Prime Minister's office in 1987 when Sumdurongchu standoff took place. So India did not cede territory then. My point is, how does one contain China?
No, I think play it cool and keep your defenses ready. Keep your diplomatic channels also going. And in this particular case, China does not have world sympathy at all, because it is the aggressor, whether it is Philippines or Taiwan or South Korea or Malaysia, Brunei, Indonesia, Laos, Cambodia, you name it. They've got territorial claims. So they have, that is why the American use of the term coercive.
Yes.
So
but China doesn't care about the world. It does what it wants to do.
Just a minute. That is what the jingoists say. But in every government you have the political side which is also looking at the fact that China is a country with a declining rate of growth.
Okay.
It needs the world. It's got the OBAR project going. So I think, and what has hurt them really is our not going to the OBAR summit.
Okay.
That has been the hurt. But as I go back to 87, I just remember very coolly, General Sundarji did what he had to do.
Okay.
Get behind them. And we waited them out.
And there is no question of 1962 being repeated, General Jaswal. India can be confident. 67 we saw what happened. 87 we saw what happened. India stood ground. India emerged victorious. No jingoism, no chest thumping. But Indians can remain confident. No fear, sir.
I tell you, that will be something which one shouldn't even think of. 62 and 2017. Well, Indian Army is really strong, and the biggest advantage that we have in our favor is the terrain friction, where the ratio comes to 1:12, 1:15 also in certain areas. And we've got about 6 divisions which are there. So he's got maximum of 32 divisions. So what will be the impact? War is no option. He cannot come in. And if China comes in, he will end up with a black eye and go back. He may capture certain territory.
Okay.
So he's not looking for an all-out war. He is looking for, occupying certain disputed areas so that it can tell its own countrymen that yes, here we are powerful, we can do what we feel like. But otherwise, its main strategy today is economic growth.
No, but if you
And
occupy
Xi is
some of
looking
your
for
land, then that
companionship,
economic cooperation will go for a toss, wouldn't it, Professor Deepak? Closing comments, sir.
Yeah, naturally. I think what is important here is that since China recognizes that there are huge asymmetries between India and China as far as force structure is concerned, economy is concerned, that is one. And secondly, also at global level, China believes that India is nowhere. And even in its foreign policy priority, we stand very low. I think it is this honor and hubris which have been bruised at this point in time when we have entered in Bhutanese land to protect the third country's interest.
Okay.
And of course, in turn, we are also protecting our interest also. But
okay, but it's
one
India's national
last
interest.
point on Bhutan.
Yes.
The Chinese are intruding into every neighbors of ours. In every neighbor, I don't want to take names, they are supporting political parties and politicians who are anti-Indian. The last attempt, most important thing they have failed in is Bhutan. Bhutan is the prize they are looking for here.
And that prize they're certainly not getting. They're certainly not getting. To all my guests, many thanks for joining me. We'll track that story closely. A quick break. Rajdeep Sardesai comes up next. Stay with us.